network at paranormalking.com.
Welcome to the Paranormal News Insider for the week of July 16th, 2019. And this is officially episode number 400. And this is your host, Dr. Brian D. Parsons. And we are live right here on the Paranormal King Radio Network at paranormalking.com. And I promised I wouldn't cry. It's 400. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like 400 is a big deal. 300 to me was huge. I thought it was a major accomplishment. I don't know. 400 just seems like another number. And but I'm proud of the show. I'm proud of sticking with it all through these years. Now, the show, just to give you a recap, in case you're not aware, the show is, it's fast approaching 11 years old already. No, wait, 11? Yeah. Jeez. Wow. Way back when Bigfoot was young. This show started off in the September of 2008. And the show started out as a short segment on a radio show called The Grand Dark Conspiracy. Back then, it was a monthly show. That's why I'm only at 400. Some people are like, well, you should be way up there. You should have way more than that. This was a monthly show. Monthly segment on a monthly show, I should say. And after 23 monthly shows in August of 2010, the show went weekly. And we went kind of bounced around a lot of different networks, internet-based networks. We also did a stint on AM radio out of Marysville, Ohio, which was basically the Columbus metro area at night. If you know anything about AM channels, they tend to cover a larger area once the sun goes down. That's the beauty of science. And so we were kind of out there for a little while doing that. And then that kind of fell to the wayside. And the Grand Dark Conspiracy, which changed its name in the interim to the Darkest Hours Late Night. It actually was going 5 nights a week for a while and then pulled back to Friday nights only. And the host of that show opted to just kind of retire and just not come back, and had kicked around coming back with a couple of different networks, but just opted to hang it up for the interim. And I was kind of caught, not sure what to do. Should I continue on? Should I latch on to another show? What do I do? So after being homeless for a little while, for a few months, I joined on with another network and was on that network, let's see, for, I don't know, what, 2.5 years, over 2 years, thereabouts. And it's pretty much almost to the day. July 17th, 2018, I had my first show here on the Paranormal King Radio Network. So it's almost a birthday within a birthday, an enigma, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's a little bit of celebrations here. No cake, no clowns. Gosh, no clowns. We've had enough clowns here in the studio over the years. No pun intended for those who know that joke. But yeah, so here it is, 400 episodes. And my 300th was way back in January of 2017, if I remember correctly. Yeah. 8 years it took me to get that far. So I don't know. I'm really looking toward 500. But to get to 500, we have to get through this year. We got a long way to go. And yes, internet radio is bigger than AM radio, but AM radio will make you famous if you do it right. And I'll tell you what, some of my best times have come in actual real radio facilities, actually being behind a hot mic in a real studio. I think it's a lot of fun. It's just more natural to me, and it's I don't know, it's more relaxing. It's really fun. But anyway, nothing beats the nice comfort of a warm room here in my studio at home. Not quite the exciting studios that I've been in the past, but they're not all glamorous. Anyway, some are really sticky and gross and stinky, but you don't smell anything on the radio, so it doesn't harm anything. But it's a lot of fun. Anyway, we've got a lot of news to cover tonight, and yes, we're going to be talking about UFOs and the very big thing that has swept the UFOs. Here we're taking it all serious about the government being involved, and now this. Now social media has gotten its claws in UFOs. And what is going on? I don't know. We'll cover it. There's a lot of stories coming out, including a nice twist that just happened not too long ago, just today. A new twist on this that's, I hope it doesn't complicate things for those people trying to travel out there. But tonight we're also going to talk about alligator mania coming back to Chicago, or I'm not sure how I want to word that one. Maybe take a chance at finding an alligator in Chi-Town. I don't know. You decide. Let me know by the end of the show. U.S. Air Force responds to the Area 51 threat. Yes, I was all proud that they ignored everything all weekend long and just kind of, I thought they would just not say anything and just let this thing simmer down on its own. But they had to fan the flames by making a threat, and that, to me, not the right thing to do. But we'll cover that in a little bit more depth here coming up. And what would actually happen if you did go out to Groom Lake? If you're curious, I got the lowdown. Haven't been to that exact area, but I've been around those areas, and I'll tell you what you're in for. I did a little bit more research, and I'll give you the travel update of what you're in for if you decide to head out there. And I know a couple of you have already gotten your plane tickets. Hopefully you got insurance for that. And we're going to talk more MUFON conspiracy theories. I'm getting a little annoyed with MUFON lately, and hopefully that does come across. I'm going to go off on them tonight, so tune in for that. I know you're going to want to hear that. They're really, really annoying me. So anyway, let's kick off the show here. We're going to kick it off with cryptid news. And yeah, everyone's like, wow, you're not going to talk about all these other things going on? Well, good thing you reminded me. Yes, check out the events tab at paranewsinsider.com and check out the list of events, things that are going on in your area. I know there's one close to you. Check it out. Big list. I've added a few events that are coming up all across the country here in the United States. Unfortunately, yeah, I only cover the United States primarily. I say North America because every now and again there is a really interesting one that happens in Canada. I don't see any in Mexico. What's going on down there? There's a lot of UFO stuff. How come there's no events? Let's get with it. So I've added some ghost stuff. I think I added maybe a cryptid event or two down there as well. So check out the list at paranewsinsider.com. Click on the events tab at the top and check out one of these events. If you're interested in these things, the category that it's under. So if it's under U.S., or I should say, if it's under ghost conferences, conventions, it's primarily a ghost conference, from what I understand. Although there may be some cryptid speakers, there may be some UFO speakers, but it's primarily a ghost conference. I could tell you when I spoke up at the Haunted Heights Paracon back in May, I was a UFO speaker, and it was a ghost conference. So it happens. We're there. We're out there. We are out there more ways than one. So do check out that list, and I do recommend, if you're into this stuff and you love listening to shows like mine, I do appreciate you that you listen to this show. I really do, honestly. And I know you're listening. I see you listening. That's spooky, I know. Okay, you just looked over your shoulder. I saw that. But anyway, I do appreciate you listening to this show and all the other shows that are out there. Everybody has their own little thing they do that brings a unique flair to what they do, and I do appreciate that. Some shows are better than others, and everybody has a favorite show. So hopefully this is somebody's favorite show out there. But again, do check out the paranormal list of conferences, conventions at paranewsinsider.com. And if you have information about one that's not on my list, feel free to let me know. Hey, Brian, you missed this one. I'm fine with that. I'm not perfect. I'm not everywhere. I do my best to put this together, but I've got a lot of other things I'm trying to juggle at the same time. So your help is appreciated. If you're aware of a conference or convention that is not on this list, feel free to let me know. You can email me at insider@paranewsinsider.com. You can get a hold of me on Facebook at facebook.com/paranewsinsider. Also Twitter at paranewsinsider. I'm there. There's multiple ways to get a hold of me. No excuse. No excuse. I'm a little slow sometimes through the email, but I do try to check that a couple of times a week just so I'm in the loop. And sometimes I do stretches. There was an event I just put up. Geez, I can't remember what it was. It was kind of one of those. I don't even see it on here now. Oh, there it is. The Shockfest Paraculticon. I normally don't do stuff like that, but the gentleman was really, really nice about it. And the event, I think that these conferences and conventions are kind of changing. I think they're morphing into the movie kind of thing because there's a lot of people that are out there shooting their own movies. And I know, and I'm not talking about the YouTube people who are trying to emulate ghost TV shows. I'm talking about people that are out there doing documentaries, more so than just a YouTube TV show. Trust me, that's just old. It's boring. Nobody wants to see that. Give me a nice documentary about a haunted location or a creature, and you got me glued down for about an hour, hour and a half. I'm into it. There's a lot of people getting into this documentary, the paranormal documentary, and I'm telling you, it's getting to be a pretty important genre. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of movies that are going to start going mainstream over this kind of stuff. So keep doing what you guys are doing. And I think that's trickling into a lot of these events. And I can tell you, at a couple that I've been at this year, we've shown a few of these types of things. So I do think it's a big deal. And I think it's going to be the future of these conferences, conventions, where a lot of these filmmakers may be taking center stage over the paracelebs eventually down the road. So I felt compelled to put that one in there. The Shockfest Paraculticon taking place November 22nd through the 24th in Las Vegas, Nevada. Maybe you're headed there in September as well, and we'll talk about that coming up shortly. So yes, let's get to the cryptid news as I started, before I remembered to go off on my tangent about conferences, conventions. So alligators. And somebody asked me, so what does an alligator have to do with cryptozoology? It doesn't make any sense. Well, alligators are not supposed to exist in Chicago. That's where this next story takes place, where an alligator has been seen in the waters near Chicago. Actually, not in Lake Michigan, but in a lagoon. No, they're not supposed to be there. And one of the designations of cryptozoology is animals that are found in places they're not supposed to be. But a lot of purist type cryptozoologists don't like that definition because 9 times out of 9, which is 10 times out of 10, it's 100%, these animals are there because people put them there. And that's the case with this next story, unfortunately. So, I get why people say that, but every now and again, maybe it's not 9 out of 9, it's maybe 9 out of 10, there is that 1 out of 10 chance that maybe there's an animal that somehow exists in a place it's not supposed to be. And we can always hope for that with creatures like the eastern cougar. Maybe it's still around, lurking in the eastern half of the United States. But yes, alligators, they don't take to cold lakes, inland lakes in Illinois or anywhere else in the north too well. They do live as far north as Virginia. Yes, Virginia, but that's along the coastal area where it's a little bit more temperate. The ocean water keeps it a little temperate, and occasionally they do get involved in a frozen over lake, and they're able to survive for a little bit. Their bodies slow down tremendously, but it won't kill them right away. It does take a little bit of time, but they're not able to move around. And if that lake stays frozen for a few days, up to a few weeks, yeah, they're going to perish. They don't actually have to eat for almost 2 weeks, so they're good. And you know the wacky weather we've been having here in the Northeast. I mean, I really apologize if you're in England, you're in Europe. Wow. I'm kind of complaining because we're going to have 95-degree temperatures coming up a couple of days. I forget what that is in Celsius. Was that 35-ish, something like that? So it's warm, it's hot, and the world is changing. We can't deny that. Whether we're responsible, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just natural. The earth changes. We can't. There's nothing you can do about it. Can't help it. The earth doesn't stay the same. Anyway, alligators, rabbit holes. How do we go from alligators to climate change? I don't know. That's one topic I vowed to avoid here on the show because we don't all agree on that. And I don't want to get myself in trouble. But anyway, alligators have been a hot topic this year. They've been seen all over the place. A lot of places they're not supposed to be. And I'll tell you, if warm weather does continue, it's not out of the possibility that these dudes might migrate a little bit further north. That's how it happens. Warm weather brings them more closer. Yeah, some of them are going to get killed off, but eventually they take hold. That's how they've worked their way to where they're at. They've died off over millions of years, and now they're working their way back. So these reports of alligators have actually gone on for quite a long time. If you've listened to the show over the years, I've had plenty of episodes where I've talked about alligators, large snakes being seen all over the place. A few weeks ago, I talked about 3 separate alligator sightings near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I guess they're trying to catch a Pirates game. I don't know why you'd want to do that. My apologies, Pennsylvania. Last October, I talked about a kayaker who discovered an alligator swimming in Waukegan Harbor, which is about 40 miles north of Chicago. The water's not that warm up there. Unfortunately, that alligator had its mouth taped shut. Well, maybe fortunately for the kayaker. Not very good for that poor little alligator. So dumped off. Another one, unfortunately. But now another alligator has been discovered in Chicago, not in Lake Michigan. And this one's believed to be about 4 feet long, was believed to be about 4 feet long. We now know the actual length of this, and you'll find out why. The alligator was first reported last Tuesday morning at the Humboldt Park Lagoon. Now, the Humboldt Park Lagoon is a landlocked lagoon, easy for me to say, about 4 miles away from Lake Michigan. So unless this guy took off running down one of the busy streets of Chicago and there in the Windy City, he's pretty much stuck. So in this case, obviously somebody dumped it there, as is the case with a majority, probably all alligator sightings in the Midwest. And I don't think it was flushed down the toilet, although you never know. You never know. One of the ones in Pittsburgh that got the attention of all of those sightings was one that escaped, tore its way through a screen door, and then kind of fell. I think it fell like 5 feet to the ground and scurried off. That guy was like 7 feet long. That would not be fun to be walking my dog and bump into that thing. So the Humboldt alligator was trending on Twitter all week long as authorities, including a guy named Alligator Bob, who I've mentioned on this show in the past, who has rescued pet alligators that have been let loose, or just alligators maybe that were captured in Florida and brought home. And these people didn't realize that, you can put it in a little fish tank, but they're still going to get pretty big pretty quick. They let these things loose in various places throughout the Midwest. Helped to hopefully get the gator out of the water. Now, on Wednesday, the Block Club Chicago website, this is what you do. This is really smart of them to do this. This really helped this story get big. What they did was they held a naming contest for the alligator, and the winner was selected from 3 polls. So they held 3 polls, and they had a final poll to determine the winner. So the first poll had the following choices. Bringing up the rear with 8% was Alexander von Humboldt. 9% was Cloudgator, a.k.a. the Bean. In second place with 14% was Richard J. Scaley. And the winner of the first poll with 69% went to Chance the Snapper. The second poll had a narrow win by Ruth Gator Ginsburg over Barack Obama, 41% to 37%. The third poll had Alligator Capone with 23% falling to Frank Lloyd Bight and his 52%. The final countdown saw Frank Lloyd Bight with 10%. Barack Obama could only muster 11%. Ruth Gator Ginsburg had 12%, and the overall winner was 67%. And now the official name of the Chicago Alligator, formerly known as the Humboldt Alligator, Chance the Snapper. Now, Chance the Snapper is named after the local rap star whose name is Chance the Rapper. I think he was on some commercials for Twix or something. I don't know. I'm not a big rap fan, unless you're talking about the 80s and 90s. Then we can talk. So there was some, talk about that this was a hoax. I was really amazed by this, that people actually thought that this was not real, that this was some kind of ploy, people trying to get attention for something or whatnot. But no, this was the real deal. And it wasn't too long that a picture was taken. Here you can see this is a still image from a video. And when you're watching the video, you can see the alligator blink its eyes and breathe through its snout. And so we knew this was the real deal and that this dude was really alive. So the alligator went a couple of days without being seen, and it was big news. Locals thought the alligator might have died or was just sick. And trust me, there was a lot of people out there looking for this thing. Thousands of people lined the lagoon, packed this park. There was no parking anywhere. It was a circus. Well, maybe not a circus. It was a big event. There was a lot of people there looking for this thing, peering into the water. However, on Saturday, it was spotted swimming again. And Chance the Snapper has become a local celebrity. And the story suddenly went national. It was in the New York news and was on TV. A lot of big stations were talking about this. This is a big deal. And granted, there's a lot of other stuff going on in Chicago that's been getting a lot of attention as well. But this is a nice little, I guess you could call it a distraction from all the more serious stuff going on out there in the world. But sometimes we need that. Sometimes we need distractions. With hundreds of onlookers constantly jockeying around the lagoon, along with television cameras, there was also helicopters circling overhead. Alligator Bob says that it actually hurt his chances of capturing Chance the Snapper. And as of Sunday afternoon, there was no sighting of Chance the Snapper. And yeah, it was really sad. I was kind of hoping that I don't know, that we'd see something that it would come out there, and there were signs posted around the lagoon warning people, beware. There's an alligator in there. So you see alligator in the area. Avoid alligator attack. Stay away from the tall grass and water. I mean, it's a little dude, little 4-foot guy, but you never know. You never know with these alligators. Now, the story gained popularity and allowed the message to spread, which is good because this needs to be said, and it's said a lot, and a lot of times this message gets buried. Don't get alligators if you don't intend to keep them or put them in the right hands when they get too big for you. Private ownership without a permit is illegal in Illinois and most other states. So it's illegal. Don't do it. But this continues to happen. We see this all across the Midwest from spring to fall. And yeah, if they're out there in the winter, they're not going to make it long. They can survive in the cold, but not for very long. Um, their systems shut down, their metabolism slows to a crawl. But once they burn off that fat, that's it. They die. Their bodies just don't have the ability to survive in the cold. That's why they live in Florida, not because of the snakes and the old people, but because it's hot and it's wet. And there's nice places to hide. And there's snakes. Dumping an animal like this is also a crime. So not only is it illegal in Illinois and most states to own an alligator without a permit, but the act of dumping it is also a crime. So you're just stacking yourself up with crimes. So I'll probably never find who did this. But a little bit more sad news. Alligator Bob, this poor guy, he spent 6 days trying to locate and capture Chance the snapper, but it was unable to do so. So unfortunately, he was replaced. Mayor Lori Lightfoot relieved the Chicago Herpetological Society of its duty, and Alligator Bob packed up his traps on Sunday night. Meanwhile, Frank Robb, owner of the Crocodilian Specialist Services out of St. Augustine, Florida, stepped in to locate and remove the creature and was said to, quote, to ensure a safe and humane capture of the alligator as well as to protect residents, unquote. This isn't Godzilla. It's a little alligator. It's a baby. He's hungry. He just wants to dress up and take pictures. Part of the park has been shut down so that the alligator has a little bit more of a chance to be seen. But pun intended. It's been thought that the crowds that have gathered could be scaring it. Well, it didn't take too long because on early Tuesday morning at around 1:30 a.m., after 36 continuous hours of tracking and surveillance, Frank Robb used a 25-foot fishing rod. Actually, it was a cast of the fish. When I first read that, I was like, 25-foot fishing rod? I've never seen one of those at Walmart. That's crazy. Well, he cast about 25 feet using a 200-pound test line to hook and reel in Chance the snapper by the tail. So somehow he got the hook and line around the tail and just right. The hook didn't actually go into the scaly body. Not that it would hurt it anyway, but he said that the line went around it and the hook actually caught the line of the first cast. So he got it around the tail, was able to pull it in, reel in Chance the snapper, and by the time he grabbed the alligator, the line actually fell off when Rob grabbed Chance. So the official stats are in. Chance is a male that measured just over 5 feet long and came in at a whopping 40 pounds. He probably lost a little bit of weight over the weekend, I'm sure. Despite the size, experts say the public was never in much harm, and Chance is being held by the Chicago Animal Care and Control and will soon be transferred to an alligator sanctuary. And if you're curious, I do got a picture of the little guy. So this is what you're missing. If you're not live in the chat room, you're missing not only some great conversations, some interesting questions, but also these fantastic pictures that I've captured. Granted, yeah, you can go around, you can find these things yourself. But why? Why do the work? I'm doing it for you. He's cute. He's a cute guy. You should go on tour. He really should. Nice looking alligator. Young. They said he was very healthy, which is a good thing. So no problems there health-wise. And it's kind of sad in one way because now it's over. Chance the snapper and the alligator frenzy of Chicago is over. The memes, the hashtags, as well as all the T-shirts designed to celebrate the occasion will now dry up. Yeah, there were people on site selling all things alligator, numerous websites, including one of the websites that I mentioned that was Block Club Chicago, that was really at the heart of all this. One of their news stations there that covers all their stuff in Chicago, all things Chicago. And they did a great job of covering it. They were selling shirts online. I think they're already sold out. People were going crazy over this thing. Lots of T-shirts. Like I said, people sitting there selling T-shirts right there on the sidewalk with the alligator on it. And how cool. Now we're getting a thunderstorm rolling in here, northeast Ohio. I guess the hurricane has arrived here for us. So anyway, back to Chicago. How else do you think Frank Robb for coming up from Florida to catch an alligator in Chicago? Well, that's right. You let him throw out the first pitch at a Cubs game. How else? Why else? What else would you do? The world champions from back in 2016. No, I'm not salty because I'm a Cleveland Indians fan. Yeah, I am a little salty. Yeah, let him throw out the first pitch, and that's what he's doing tonight. Actually, I think we missed it. It was actually when the show started. Just after the show started, he threw out the first pitch. Wow, how cool was that? 7 p.m. Central, as the Cubs host the Cincinnati Reds. And they'll probably win that game. Just throwing that out there. I do feel bad for Alligator Bob. I mean, this guy toiled for days to find this poor thing. And that's 36 hours. This Rob guy comes up. Boom. Not only does he snag chance, gets this picture on the front of the paper, but now he's throwing out the ball at the Cubs game. Man, what a tough world this alligator wrangling business is, I'll tell you. But on the flip side of that, I also feel bad for Chance the Snapper. Oh, the Reds are winning. Wow, there goes my sports betting career. Chance the Snapper will also not be attending. Unfortunately, he's kind of on lockdown. He's incarcerated for the time. And he's being, like I said, he's going to be entering an alligator sanctuary. Probably not as cool as that lagoon that he had access to. But you know what? We all can't live high on the hog. But he'll be happy. He'll live out his life. And I'm sure we'll hear more about Chance the Snapper in the future. It's too bad. It's too bad. He couldn't hold on longer. I mean, it would have been cool if he would have eluded them, gotten out. They almost captured him, and it would have lived on. It would have been great. Not sure if anybody remembers, but the Wessie the snake from way back in 2016, that was a huge story all summer long. We never came to a conclusion. Nobody ever found it. And, yeah, what happened? But that's the snake for Wessie, never being found or discovered or any other sighting, really perpetuated that into a legendary status. But unfortunately, Chance the Snapper, this story has come to a conclusion, and we can now turn the page. So now that lets us get into UFO news. And yes, this zaniness continues. I was hoping that this week I wouldn't have to talk about this anymore. I thought it would be over. This is almost kind of like the clown pandemic of a couple of years ago as well. I think that was 2016 as well, wasn't it? I think. I don't remember. But crazy zaniness. It's out of hand. It's out of control. Nick Pope has actually commented and said that this is definitely out of control. This has to stop. And I talked about this last week, and back then it was just gaining some momentum. It was just getting hot. And I wasn't sure how big this story would continue to grow before it just dried up. I figured it would go away, people would get bored with it, and they'd move on to something else. Well, when you give people attention, this is what happens. This started out as a simple internet joke. Basically, a bunch of bored young people said, hey, we're going to do this because it's just stupid enough for people to actually leave. And they were right. This joke has grown into one of the biggest paranormal stories of the year, and is quickly becoming one of the all-time biggest paranormal stories if it continues. And if things start to pan out the way that a lot of people are talking about them panning out, this is going to be ugly. That's probably a word I should use, ugly. And I'm talking about the event and the Facebook group called Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us. And this is getting way more news, way more attention than what it really deserves. And I'm really surprised that so many people are talking about this story. I figured that this kind of illegal activity would just be ignored, and if you don't talk about this kind of stuff, this is it goes away. This is the kind of topic that people talk about over the years of not giving people doing crazy things attention, because if you give them attention, they're just going to keep doing it, or other people are going to be doing similar crazy things. So let it go, but they can't because it's news. Now, last week I reported there was 230,932 people interested and 198,112 people stating that they were actually going to this September 20th event where people will storm Area 51 in search for aliens. And certain people want to do certain things with aliens, I guess. And some people want to run away from them, have pets with them. I don't know. People are just really out there, further out there than aliens, I think. So a lot of people said, well, that's impressive. 198,000 people. That's insane. Well, it wasn't even a few hours later that number was well over 200,000 people purportedly going to this event. And by early Friday, that number was just over 500,000 people. I didn't have a whole lot of time to really stare at this over the weekend, but I did check in on Sunday afternoon around 4:30 p.m. and the numbers were 796,473 people interested and 920,662 actually going, according to them. By Monday, the number of people finally crossed 1 million, with almost 1.2 million signed up to storm Area 51, with just over 974,000 just merely interested. We haven't convinced them enough, I guess. Now, I checked a little bit before coming on the show, probably 15, 20 minutes before coming on the show tonight, and saw that there was 1,128,676 people interested, and apparently 1,421,350 people. It's good to have an even number like that. They're going. Bags are packed, tickets purchased, car rented, hiking boots polished. Yeah, they're on their way. And the event started out as a joke, complete joke, just an internet joke, a way to basically create memes about aliens. And everybody jumped on the bandwagon. It's kind of a Reddit kind of style, and just kind of got out of control. I mean, an overwhelming majority of people obviously are not going to leave their mundane lives to behind the keyboard to partake in something like this. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Now, I've read over the weekend that the government was aware of the Facebook event, but it decided to give no comment on the matter. And I commend them. I think that was the right approach. Don't say anything. Just let it go. And maybe this will just back down. But unfortunately, a lot of people were talking about this in the media. And the media made this a bigger deal, imagine that, and gave fuel to the fire for these people and to get their attention. And it just got worse because it attracted more and more and more and more people. The Washington Post released an article that points out that most everyone realizes that this is not a serious event, including the media. But I don't know why are you talking about it then? If this isn't serious, why are we talking about it? Do we take everything we see on the internet serious? Are we taking everything that's pushed on Facebook and Reddit seriously? There's a lot of stuff going on that probably deserves a little bit more attention than this. And this is obviously a joke. This could turn into a very, very, very bad situation very seriously if people do intend to go there. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But I mean, what about those that are trying to make this into more than what it is? More than what it was intended to be? I mean, could there actually people be making plans to show up in force to storm Area 51 for real? And yeah, last week I talked about it. I pointed out that the area surrounding the base is a desert. and a very unforgiving environment that's actually miles away from the base. It's not like you're going to hop a fence, run 50 yards, and tackle an alien. It's not that simple. And I think a lot of people that are doing this realize this. But there's a lot of things that people are not thinking about. The area may look desolate. I mean, it's empty desert, but I'll tell you, there's plenty of devices and people constantly monitoring places that people, if they're going to try to gain entry, they know you're coming. And if the desert doesn't get you, the camo dudes likely will. Laura McAndrews, a spokeswoman for the Air Force, has been fielding questions for this story over the weekend, and finally they made a statement. So the Air Force came out and made a statement. Not the smartest thing in the world to do, because now it's perpetuating this story. But hey, that's their business, not mine. Maybe this is going to back people down. I think it made some people nervous, so maybe this was the right time to kind of quell what the media had stirred up a little bit here. So Laura McAndrews, she said, Area 51 is an open training range for the U.S. Air Force, and we would discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we train American armed forces. The U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets, unquote. So that writing is on the wall. The Air Force is going to protect America and its assets. So if you intend on trespassing, watch your assets because you may get them blown off. So this has led to many to comment on the site that they're not serious about this. I know one of the moderators actually went on there and said, you know what? I don't want anything to do with this. I didn't intend this to be a big deal. I'm out. And who knows? Maybe that was a joke. I don't know. But seems kind of funny that some of the people that were involved in this in the get-go are now disappearing and other people are taking it over. I don't know. It seems kind of funny to me. Some people are serious. They don't want to end up on some sort of watch list. You know, it's possible. Big Brother is watching. I mean, you made a big deal. You're making threats against the government, too, which is kind of weird that it's not being shut down by now. I'm really shocked that Facebook has not shut it down due to some of the things. Granted, it's pretty comical. You know, they're trying to make fun of all this, and it's more disgusting or dirty than it is actually threatening. So I think they've just kind of skirted it very closely. Sadly, many are jumping on this bandwagon to get attention for their websites. A lot of websites, YouTube channels. There's actually now an official website for this. And people are just cashing in. They're creating T-shirts, selling stickers, selling... there's an official alien emblem thing now that you can get. And I mean, everybody's trying to cash in on this. And it's really sick that people are trying to make money off of what could potentially be bloodshed. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it here. This could be potentially bad because I'm guaranteeing you, the bigger this gets, if this continues, there's going to be some crazy people, and it's going to be more than one, are going to go out there and actually try to do this, and it's not going to be pretty. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago by the gentleman who accidentally drove onto a base in that area, was stopped and made a move toward the police and was shot and killed. They're not going to screw around. This is a military base. Probably no aliens there, so I don't know what the big focus is on that. But I'm sure if this was any other base, this would be handled a little bit differently. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, last week I said, probably nobody will go. But now, the more this lingers on, the more attention this gets, I'm kind of sure that some small group of people are going to do something very, very stupid, all in the name of internet fame to get their 15 minutes. May only be 15 seconds if they cross that line, but we'll see. I mean, most of us know it's a joke, and I think a lot of people realize it's just one big giant meme. It's one big thing to laugh at. And, some of the stuff is pretty funny, but, when we are encouraging people to do things that are illegal, I think you're kind of crossing into a little bit of a gray area. Now, a really interesting article that I found that, again, I was talking about the desert and stuff, but They did a little research. It's people that actually are in the area. This website called the aviationist.com published an article that says, what would happen if thousands of people really did storm Area 51? Granted, most of us know this is clearly a joke of epic proportions, but it's spiraled from a bunch of bored social media users into a global meme that some are taking a little bit too seriously. I think the media is too. I think they're stirring the pot here. Over the last few days, a few people have shown plane ticket information on the Facebook site that gave birth to the Storm Area 51. They can't stop us, all of us page. So people are purchasing plane tickets. I've seen there was somebody who had, I believe, rental car information already for that day. So there are people that are already making plans on going out there. Whether or not those are hoaxes, I don't know. But man, don't waste your money. Just don't do it. It's not what you think it's going to be. Many stories mention the danger of the desert. And I just talked about the big reaction from the government. And I don't think they're going to stay too quiet on this too much longer. I think they're going to say even more about this. But again, this article here in the Aviationist spells it out very well, what people would be up against if they got the bright idea to actually show up to Area 51 in just over 2 months. We're closing in on 2 months now. So it acknowledges that this story is just an internet sensation that almost all don't take it seriously, but does pose the question, what if? What if people do go? An interview with Donna Tyron shares a story where one of her tour bus operators was quickly pulled over when they accidentally crossed into restricted space. The camo dudes quickly surrounded the bus and summoned local law enforcement and issued them all citations. I think it was like $650 a piece. She also mentions tour bus operators who have been buzzed by aircraft that have had lasers appear on them from out in the desert, from like a half mile away. You know, one of those tracers from a laser that would point the bullet in the proper direction. You know what I'm talking about. Basically as a warning not to trespass, not to take another step. And there's snipers out there. These guys are trained. They're not actually military. They have a third-party group. But trust me, if there was a large enough people, sheriff would show up, and I think the military would be forced to respond as well. There are fences, motion sensors, remote cameras, and other devices put up along and around the base. You won't get far. It looks like nobody's there, but trust me, you won't get far. When asked about people thinking of gaining entry to the base, she said, quote, "That would be very, very stupid. Area 51 is not a joke. No matter what is going on there, people need to remember this is a military facility. You will not get far," unquote. So not only the military base, but the surrounding area is not something that most people are used to. So if you're looking at this location along the southern and eastern side of the base, closest to Groom Lake, where Area 51 is, there are extremely few gas stations. Not a whole lot of place to get fuel. Not a whole lot of places to get candy bars or Monster energy drinks or anything else to fuel yourself up for the run across the desert. The eastern side from US 93 to Nevada 375, and Nevada 375 is nicknamed the Extraterrestrial Highway. People keep stealing the signs. That leads to Rachel, Nevada, which is about 148 miles from Las Vegas via car. There's only one gas station once you leave the Las Vegas city limits. 148 miles, one gas station. Good luck with that. There's no other places to shop or buy things. That's it. That's it. Not much else. Let me show. I got a couple of pictures that I took via. Let's see. Here's a picture of Rachel, Nevada. Now, people think of Rachel, Nevada. They think of the Little Alien Inn, the hotel that's there. But that's Rachel. There's nothing there. To the right, you can't really see it. There's a green sign. That's the Extraterrestrial Highway sign that's made famous. but that's it. That's Rachel. A couple of buildings. There's not that much there. People think it's a big town. It's not. It's a little blip on the map. Nothing there. Biggest town on the map. Closest to Groom Lake. So this is as close as you can get in civilian space. Groom Lake sits actually due south. So if you took off out of here and you went due south, granted you have to go over a large mountain. It's actually about 30 miles as the crow flies, or maybe the turkey vulture, because that's probably what you'll see in that area if you collapse. So I have another picture that I'll share in the chat room from Nevada 375 looking out to Groom Lake Road. So Groom Lake Road, actually, if you get on that road and you drive down it, 27 miles away. Now, I don't know exactly with that road. It's probably a lot longer, probably about 30 some odd miles. But yeah, good luck. Get on that road and drive, and you'll end up there. You probably won't make it. Probably won't make it. Yeah, so that's what you're staring at there. So it's just a large desert area, and in the background you see a mountain area. Well, that's what you got to go over. And Area 51 is on the backside of that, about 30 miles away. That's it. You go down that dirt road. But what you don't see is gates down there that say no trespassing. And by the time you hit it, you'll see other vehicles cutting you off. You won't get far, trust me. That's not a challenge. It's just a fact. So there's a lot of desert there and a mountain. Again, you have to cross just to get through there. And it's not an easy mountain. Not an easy mountain at all. It's very sharp rocks. Not something you want to deal with. Now, just before you hit the tiny town of Rachel, I know the UFO people know this. This is very famous, although you're in for a letdown if you do actually go to see this. Again, only that little alien place to offer. I don't know how many rooms. There's like 12 rooms, I think, and it's not the best place in the world to stay. I'll just tell you that one as well. You will drive by the black mailbox, the infamous black mailbox. Now, the black mailbox is actually white, and it's not really a mailbox. It's more a I don't know what you call it. It's like a lockbox now. So here's the image. A lot of people go here, and unfortunately, this is probably the most traveled to area. People don't really even drive to Rachel because they're afraid they'll run out of gas. So there you see the little white mailbox. And again, if you go down one of those roads, that ends up going onto the base. But again, by the time you get a little closer to the gate, you'll notice camo dudes sitting there watching you. They come out of nowhere. They just appear. You're not going to see them. There's people out there all the time. You just don't see them. There's a lot of camo dudes out there. And let's see. This is where a lot of tourists go. And unfortunately, I didn't zoom in on that or show you. There's a lot of graffiti all over that. People put stickers and they spray paint, they knock it over. Some people steal it. That's why the mailboxes are gone. People keep stealing the mailboxes. They just tear that place apart, and you see all the tire tracks in that photo. This is about as far as people go. This is it. You start traveling down that road, and you get the creeps. And then you start seeing in the distance vehicles, and most people just turn around and go back. They don't want to mess with it. It's not worth it. So really, from that dirt road, looking at the map, drawing a line there, it's about 22 and a half straight miles. Granted, the road would be well over 30. And again, a very rough landscape to cross. Let me show you an aerial map from that location in the chat room there. So you'll see it from the mailbox to Groom Lake. And it looks really easy when you're talking about looking at a aerial map. So there's a line there. It's 22.47 miles as the crow flies, but you're going over a lot of terrain. There's a mountain there that you have to wind through. That road goes straight up the mountain, then it kind of wanders around, and then you're headed down toward that base a couple of miles away in the distance. Good luck. Good luck getting there. That's all I got to say. Now, all along the drive, you'll see a mountain range. in the distance. If you're going on the eastern side or even the southern side, you'll see mountain ranges in the distance that hides Groom Lake in Area 51. And when you're driving through Rachel, when you're driving toward Rachel, I should say, you'll see you go through an area called the Great Basin. There's heavy rocks on both sides, large rock kind of outcrops on both sides of you. That's what you're in for. Big formations of rock, and that's what you're going to contend with. Very sharp rocks, loose rocks as well. Not easy to, you're not going to run through that. And if you're wearing shorts or even pants, it's going to cut you to pieces. Daytime temperatures are generally in the low 100 degrees, 105, 110. And there's really no shade or fresh water to speak of other than what you bring with you. Again, the rugged terrain, full of sharp rocks, loose sand, cactus, venomous snakes, and a lot of other potentially dangerous animals, including desert fox, coyotes, and even wild dogs. Oh, plus scorpions, if you decide to head out before sunrise or after sunset. Plus, it's freezing cold. If you go out there in the desert at night, it's super cold. So pick your poison. The heat and terrain alone are enough to kill nearly anyone who would attempt to go on foot, even a distance runner, a marathon runner, somebody who's in perfect shape. Good luck. They're going to have a hard time getting through all that. The article also mentions logistics. Other than a rare gas station or two and a few hundred square miles, there are just as few places to buy water or food, let alone hotels, with the exception of Las Vegas, over 2 hours away. And that's where most people are going to fly into and try to drive out of. If a few hundred people show up, there would not be enough supplies available between Vegas and any other random points to the south or east to assist in that. There's just nothing out there. And I don't think people understand that. There's nothing out there. People are going to try to load up. I get it. In Vegas, buy whatever they can. Good luck, because Vegas knows about this too. And if Vegas is good at one thing, it's price gouging on everything, and they'll do it. The other issue is probably not much to see there. So even if you bust through the gates and you're able to run all the way through there and you're able to get there, what are you going to see? You might see a top secret test flight. Probably not during the day. It's definitely not going to be a reverse engineered UFO. Now, some more bad news about this. Well, maybe nobody will actually show up, but I do think the more this is hyped and the longer this goes on, there's going to be somebody crazy that's going to show up. Now, a recent development is going to guarantee that's going to happen. A company called Area 15, which operates a shopping mall in the area and runs live immersed experiences, is planning to live stream the assault on the top secret military base after its boss's curiosity was piqued. Personally, from reading their Facebook posts and their Twitter tweet, I think they're a little out of touch with the target demographic here of this event. When they state on their Facebook and Twitter sites, they say, quote, "We're going to live stream the event here at #Area 15 to watch what goes down. And of course, costumes and tinfoil hats are required," unquote. Okay, that's so 1960s. Personally, to keep this short, kind of running low on time here, I think it's really irresponsible for this company to do this. And this is just another cash grab for another company, another individual. They're just trying to get their name out there, and I hope they're happy with that. And they better hope that they're not attracting people out there for disappointment or that anybody gets hurt, because really, they put themselves on the line now financially, and they put themselves at risk as a liability. You know, if they're making people go out there and somebody gets hurt, they're gonna get sued. I guarantee you, somebody is going to twist an ankle, pop a knee, or even worse, way worse. And they're putting themselves on the hook here by inviting people down there. And like I said, it's sad. Suddenly, everybody's selling T-shirts and all kinds of stuff associated with this event, and people are just ripping off everything. It's just turned into a disaster, and it's sad. We'll keep an eye on that and some of these other stories. Now, Last story, real quick. This will only take me minute and a half, 2 minutes here. One story I did want to touch on. Last month, I did a story where UFOs were sighted in Butler County, Ohio, in southern Ohio. Then a few days later in Kansas City, a high-altitude white blob was seen and filmed while over Ohio. And the same looking object was then seen a couple of days later over Kansas City with not quite the same evidence in the way of photos and videos. There was a lot of speculation with both cases, from weather balloons to alien invasion. But then all of a sudden it came out that DARPA had launched a test balloon just a few days prior to the Ohio sighting, and that the trajectory would explain the Kansas City sighting. Now, DARPA stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and the balloon was a test flight for their Adaptable Lighter-Than-Air, or ALTA program. Now, this balloon uses a sensor which changes its elevation to be able to ride wind currents above the jet stream in order to stay stationary over an area, or in the case of this test, actually move against the jet stream and go in the opposite direction. In this case, it was east to west, which the jet stream typically runs west to east. In this case, the balloon went from Maryland through the Midwest. It was actually seen a few days later in Chico, California, where it eventually settled close to that area. They brought it down without incident. The Department of Defense was not exactly happy about talking about this project publicly. When it was brought up by news reporters about specific areas, it didn't really want to delve into that information. However, this whole thing didn't sit well with MUFON and others in Kansas City. So last night, Monday night, nearly 150 people attended the Kansas City chapter of the Mutual UFO Network's meeting that typically only draws about 15 to 25 people. The big topic was the June 20th sighting that gained national attention, and many seemed very dismissive of the DARPA claim, including Margie Kay of MUFON, who said, quote, "You would think if they were going to release something like that, they would let the public know what was going on, that the public was going to see it, and they would announce it ahead of time, but they didn't do that," unquote. Well, I thought MUFON was about research and information because, when I heard the DARPA reason, honestly, I was a little skeptical too. I wasn't sure about that information, but it made a lot more sense than a lot of the other things that were being reasoned. Oh, and Margie, you might want to go to the Twitter feed for DARPA, because on June 18th, they have a tweet that clearly states, quote, "Last night, DARPA launched 3 balloons from Cumberland, Maryland in a flight test with the Adaptable Lighter-Than-Air program. Over the next few days, ALTA will demonstrate capability for wind-borne navigation of a lighter-than-air vehicle over extended ranges," unquote. And they also give a kind of a drawing of what the object looked like, which is scary because it looks exactly like the pictures shown up along the way. So no, it doesn't say anything like, quote, "Be aware you might see these high-altitude secret balloons that we were testing so anyone can track their progress," unquote. Why would they do that? I mean, this is the defense agency, a government defense agency. They're not going to tell people where top secret balloons are flying. Really? You're a MUFON researcher and you don't get this? How things work with the national defense? Give me a break. Now, these balloons were known to be in the air by the FAA. Some other agencies were well aware of these things. They weren't necessarily tracking them or they were keeping an eye on them, but they're not going to tell you exactly where they're at. That's ludicrous that there has to be that kind of transparency with top secret projects. It wasn't hurting anybody or anything, flying well above air traffic. Air traffic was steered around all this that was happening. It wasn't a problem. It wasn't a complete secret. Yet at the same time, again, we're talking about a defense project. They're not going to announce exactly where these balloons are in real time. They were very kind of dodgy about the whole topic, but they did announce and they did say that these objects were probably in the area after these sightings because they don't want people tracking this stuff. This is some top secret stuff here, high tech. So DARPA even tweeted when the balloons landed and had a picture to accompany it. So yes, Margie, they did say these things were in the area. They did say they were up there. They did say they existed, and they did show you what they look like. Research. Learn how to do it. So I'll even show you the tweet. My goodness, it took me 5 seconds to find it. Maybe this is why I don't work with MUFON. I don't have any patience for ignorance. It's not that hard to find this stuff. It's not that hard to do research. Research doesn't mean staring at a video and coming to odd conclusions, putting on YouTube so everybody can fake themselves out about it. The picture doesn't work. But you can find the tweet yourself. It's not hard. It's not hard. It looks very much like the Butler County one taken from below the balloon. Well, the MUFON members know they were wrong about that. They got caught. They got basically lambasted over this. The media was telling them, look, this is what it was. They came out and admitted it. MUFON was fighting this, but I think they realized that they were wrong. So suddenly, they came out with this statement. Kay commented, quote, "We examined frame by frame and we found other objects along with the balloons that would not be visible to the naked eye," unquote. Well, the balloon itself was barely visible by the naked eye, and I'm curious if the object that they picked up was the wind sensor that was attached to the balloons that may have been seen near the balloon, even though it was still attached to it. Again, you're looking from the bottom of these balloons, not the side. I mean, this is just another reason, like that claim of Marilyn Monroe being murdered to spoil an alien information crisis. I mean, where the heck did that come from? I mean, this really makes me question whether MUFON is really doing any sort of service anymore, or they're just grasping at straws to get attention. I mean, realistically, I'm out. I'm leaving you with that. I don't know. I mean, I thought To the Stars was crazy, but you know what? At least they're getting some positive attention for things. Anyway, I'll see you next week. But for now, keep your eyes in the skies, your ears in the woods, the hair standing on the back of your neck, and always keep your mind slightly ajar. And above all else, don't stop believing. For the Paranormal News Insider, this is Dr. Brian D. Parsons reporting.